Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. Hitting the new year, hitting it off right, bringing it back with our first gaming episode of the year. We are embarking on a year-long journey with you, the beautiful listener. So we've thought, what better than to start it off with the game journey? But for real, we did it because it was short.
And because we're all trying to climb that mountain, man.
Metaphorically,
always trying to journey.
For me, it's purely metaphorically. Never trying to climb an actual mountain. Miss me with that.
Teddy Roosevelt said to get over something mentally, you got to do something physically. Get over something physically. Do something physically challenging. So just think about that. The great Teddy Roosevelt.
Sure thing.
There's like a part of me that would love to try mountain climbing to an extent, but I just can't. I don't have the ability to turn off my self-preservation enough to actually enjoy doing that activity.
To do something like a free climbing, that type of shit.
Those guys fascinate me.
Free climbing is insane. Those people have no will to live.
That's how I think
they yearn for death.
Yes.
Which, respect.
Yeah, I mean, got to give it to him.
If you're trying to get into it though, there is like a sub niche of that hobby that I just learned about a while ago. I think they call it bouldering. Where it's like you're free climbing.
It's basically like super hiking.
But it's like, no, it's like you're climbing these weird ass, they're big boulders, but you're never more than 10 feet off the ground.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, you break a leg. You don't.
Or like a sprained ankle is probably the biggest risk there, unless you got brittle bones.
Yeah.
So I've done for Boy Scouts both self belay and buddy belay on an actual cliff face.
Who was your buddy belay in that?
You're asking me to remember random names from Boy Scout camp like 20 years ago.
We're digging further into the lore of Matt's childhood.
Maybe Rico.
Of Matt's Boy Scout childhood.
Maybe Joe.
I was making more of a sexual predator joke.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
We know. Listeners will know. We're digging away at there. We'll get there eventually.
Chipping. It's our journey.
Uh-huh.
You'll come along with us.
But no, if you want to go rock climbing, just go to a climbing wall and do it in a safe, enclosed environment where it's controlled. And
I did that once, and the harnesses. I'm surprised I didn't get testicular torsion from those harnesses. So yeah, never again. Not happening. But for real, we chose Journey. I mean, there is it was a joke, but kind of not really. We chose it because it's a really interesting game, but it is short. It's nice and sweet. Wow.
It's actually one of the best parts about it.
Yeah, we're coming off the holidays, so we couldn't ask people to dedicate a whole bunch of time, but it's one of its strengths, in my opinion, is that it's so
because a game that plays
condensed.
like this would overstay its welcome anything over 2.5, 3 hours, I think. Because it's really meant to be a one-sitting game, and once you start to stretch how long that one sitting is, you're cutting off how many people can do one sit down and finish it.
You're also cutting off circulation to your lower body. Gotta
move around, people.
Yeah, how
you
long...
get those active stools? Is that what they call them? Where you're in the half, 3/4 kneel position.
Oh yeah. That just reminds me of a Scrub joke. When Turk and Carla get married and she moves in officially and redecorates and gets those kind of stools, and JD is trapped in them and can't get out. It's like a bear trap, and then just tips over.
I was gonna ask if Matt was ever in a 3/4 kneeling position in the Boy Scout.
They had to build one of those for his woodworking shop.
That was a badge. I thought he was going to say a jazzercise ball.
Yeah. How long did that's a good jumping off point. How long did each of your playthroughs go?
Mine was, I looked at it as I was wrapping up stream because I played mine on Twitch, and I was like pretty much exactly at the 2 hour mark when it all wrapped up. It was like an hour and 58, I think.
Which makes sense when you think about it, because A, you didn't know what you were doing, and B, you didn't have a partner there, which kind of helps you know what you're doing.
Yeah, you can have somebody chirping at you, telling you this way, dumbass.
Beep boop boop boop.
Yeah, because Andrew, you probably killed a solid like 15 minutes in that first area. Just I mean, but like doing
That's
you,
the journey.
you're exploring, you're figuring it out, because at that at that point, you don't know how limited the control scheme is. You don't know how how core
There's
the
also
actual
a decent
mechanic.
amount of symbols you can get out there, which if you explore a lot helps for later when you get hit over and over and over and over and over again and have no scarf left.
I probably could have benefited from that.
Yeah, probably killed 10 minutes there too.
Yeah, Andrew absolutely scarfless at one point.
I finished scarfless. I completed the game scarfless.
We found out that you can't
I liked the
actually
exact
die.
point in time where we thought you were soft locked.
Yeah.
Because like I was like, no way you're soft locked. There's no way.
Yeah,
and I was watching, I was like, is he not capable of getting over that railing? Like, can he not make that jump?
With the ethos of this game's design, there's no way that they're gonna, literally do a skill issue, get good type of thing. There's no way they would implement that kind of barrier.
Get all the way there and you can't finish, you gotta start over. More
Well, and like half the time it scripts the jump, like you don't even have to do a jump. It just, if you're close enough to it and it's of a certain height, which I think that railing was, he could have just over it.
Just floated over, yeah.
Yeah, it was just landing in the wrong spot on his descent and then just boop.
Yeah. That sequence, that was a blow to my confidence as a gamer, if I'm being perfectly honest.
And do you know what the worst part is? I'm just going to keep raining it down on you. That was our max viewers. We had 8 people watching at that point in time.
Good. It's good content. Watch me fail miserably. Like, I can't do a thing that's for babies.
Yeah, we're gonna have to clip that. Matt, you played it on Steam Deck, right?
Yep. So for my Steam Deck playthrough, it was a tight like 136, I think was the final.
Nice.
And it was mostly aided by the fact that A, I've played it before, and B, I had a partner from the very first area to the end, essentially.
That's awesome.
That I played the whole way through with, and we were doing the happy beat boops. We were we were finding secrets together. We were doing all the fun stuff.
So I want to jump in right there because I actually played some this morning, and I did get a partner. And I got to the ability to sing for each other makes traversal just like so much better.
Yep.
And
can you like refill each other's scarves at that point?
Yeah, you could just keep singing and you just can fly around essentially if you do it in tandem.
Beautiful.
Yep. So when I was playing, I had a guy like really far off in the distance, and actually I think in your game I saw a guy at one point that we missed, but
he did have one person join on the end screen, it said, but he never saw him.
I saw him flash by. It was in a one of like the hallway cutscenes when you're going into a new area. He like flashed by right as you were going through the new area, and then he just disappeared. But one thing I noticed was even if they're really far off, you'll see when they're
the screen lights up in the direction of where they are.
Yeah, and I wonder if we missed some from him.
No, there was just the one.
No, but I'm that one guy.
When you have a partner join, the screen will have a light area, and that you'll have to turn your camera to that direction to find them.
For me,
a tight hour 36. I think my first playthrough on PS4 was something like an hour 45 or thereabouts.
That's right. That's right where mine was. Mine was about an hour and 40, hour 45. I found the whole thing so intuitive. It was, there's the gameplay
I mean,
again is so
the game
simple. It's so
always points you
simple.
to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Whenever you enter an area, it says, "Hey, look, there's the mountain."
Yeah, there's some really good, visual cues for a wordless game, and I had honestly forgotten that they do actually, I guess, give you a little bit of tutorializing, a little bit of prompting in that opening stage where you get the little controllers thing and
Yep.
it
Yeah.
tells you button. I almost wish that they didn't do that. I wish that it was
Yeah.
just completely because when I first started, when I first booted it up, I'm pressing every button.
Right.
I was like, what's this do? What's this do? What's this do? And do you realize, okay,
Only
I
two
only
buttons.
have two buttons.
I mean, the only thing there would be that you wouldn't get anything out of the A button until you get to that first set of fabric creatures.
Well, you still your scarf.
So you would need
still-
something to notify them that now you can use that button.
But see, I was just chirping all the time. I was just chirping at everything. I was like,
Well, yeah, that's B.
why am I
and if you-
chirping? What does it do?
If you hit A though, before you get to those guys, your scarf still like lights up a bit, like it faintly, and like you do a little jump, and so it does show you like what it will later do. You just can't use it properly. So my playthrough will be to be determined because I thought we were recording at 11:30 and I had enough time to but I watched Andrews, so
what initial opinions and thoughts? Let's not get very, very deep into it because I do have some backstory and discussion about its production that I want to get through because it's an interesting story and a journey of its own from inception to
You mean an
actually
Abzu?
getting out there. Yeah.
my initial thoughts is this is a looting game.
A looting game.
You pick up the scarf things, you're looting for the scarves that help you fly. There's all the secrets to uncover with your cheer-ups. It's a looting game. And a very rewarding looting game because it's only 2 hours max, and there's a good amount of shit to be like discovering even on that short linear path.
All the best games have a the strength of the game is determined by its looting mechanics.
Yeah, it's loot to playtime ratio.
Yeah, pretty off the charts right there.
Yeah, very rewarding. Keeps my attention. And I just have a linear path of a mountain that's just like, hey, this is where you're going. Don't forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, the fact that the mountain is so big and looming is what allows you to go looting off to the side because you just spin your camera around for a little bit and then boom, mountain. Okay, I'm going back that way.
Yeah, there's that one area where it's like really kind of the open desert where you think you kind of could get lost, but it does again do a really good job of
the fabric creatures also direct you.
Yeah, it's very subtly moving you in the right way with your little dolphin, your little fabric dolphin guys.
Think
they're all sharks. I don't know what you're talking about.
Nope.
Sharks versus whales, the ultimate battle.
I mean, I would go shark over dolphin because dolphins get all rapey. The sharks are just they're directional. They're going to one spot. The blood in the water, the mountain.
Nah, it's the vocalizations for me. It's like those are dolphins and that's a big whale.
No, the real tell is the tail fin. Sharks have the vertical tail fin. Whales, dolphins have the horizontal tail fin. I think.
Yeah, I think they all had, and they all had. None of them had had the vertical side to side.
Maybe they were swimming on their side.
What's getting you is the hammerhead look.
Yeah, they do have a hammerhead. They do have a hammerhead. They're hammerhead whales. It's a new breed.
Fair enough.
They're James Cameron's going to activate them through the journey world. They're going to start attacking boats. They're going to come through the portal. They already have the tails to breed.
They do have a little bit of an Avatar-ish.
I mean, they're going to
feel
start
to them.
they're going to start attacking the constructs. You know, you saw them being, captured and used as the power
Harvested.
source. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to rise up.
What we're doing to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag resistance.
So my initial thoughts are just like I found the economy of this game is just they are so efficient in an incredible way in how they progress the story, the controls, and to do that while still making it an enjoyable experience is, I think, just a pretty strong testament.
To have gameplay that simple and yet still be so engaging is really a challenge and a testament to their critical eye for what is important and what
Right.
is going to draw in, the human eye. And I'll just start it off by saying that I find this to be a very human game, both in terms of its story and in terms of its mechanical perspective. I think it's about, you know, being human. That's what the journey is.
And
But really what sticks out to me, this is a vibes game. The music is
100%.
the music is immaculate
That
throughout.
is
Music's
blasting.
incredible.
There I don't
Speakers bumping.
I don't think in my experience I've had a better lean back game. And I said that on stream, and it is perfect from a lean back game perspective.
I actually think the thing that this game does for me as a lean back game better than the one that Ben likes to make fun of me for considering related to this game, Abzu.
No, it is related. It is a spiritual successor. It's just not done. But the art director is the guy who made Abzu. It's there. The DNA is there.
The
It's
story is so similar.
oh,
The journey, so
absolutely,
similar.
absolutely. But no, it's not the same
But
studio.
the biggest difference for me is that Abzu is the ocean, and the ocean is scary as fuck.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And like the sands are just so much calmer to me and more relaxing than swimming through the deep ocean. That is just not it. Keeps me on edge when Mr. Shark comes through the first couple times.
Yeah, it's it took me a while playing Abzu to let my guard down a little bit, and then I got blown up by a mine, by a sea mine. But yeah, that was there's maybe we'll talk about Abzu some other time. Although it's part
Let's
of the
just do Abzu, Cocoon,
it's
short games all year.
it's part of the the discussion of what happened to the studio here. It's proof that the Abzu is proof that in the formation of Giant Squid Studio, the people who made Abzu, it's proof that the making of this game was not a simple thing, and is had a lot of drama, uh a lot of problems. But first, let's just get this out of the way, that this game, not developed by Giant Squid, the developers of Abzu, this is developed by That Game Company. It was the third in a 3-game contract with Sony Computer Entertainment, published in March 2012 for the PS3. This is a game that's over a decade old and still holds up very, very well, and still has a dedicated fan base. And you'll find this game on probably every best game of the century type list.
I mean, I noticed the dedicated fan base when you were streaming it. We had
yeah.
Maybe we just
had
become
viewers,
Journey
we had
speedrunners.
chatter.
So this game was so That Game Company at the time was a very, very small studio. It was like 7 people at its start, at the start of making Journey. They had made 2 games at that point. One of them had been part of like a master's project that the 2 kind of leads and studio founders who are Genova Chen, who was the game director for Journey. It was Genova Chen and Kelly Santiago, who I think by the time of Journey had taken a step back from a producer role and was just like, leading the company as a company. Excuse me. But yeah, they had made their first game as part of like their master's thesis, and it got the attention of some people, and they used it to ink this deal with Sony, and eventually brought it to I think that it was all still during the PS3 era. So their first two games, Flow and Flower, were followed by Journey, which was originally meant to be developed in 1 year. That was like the start of the problem there. But before we get into the drama, I found this bit interesting. Like, where do you think the inspiration, the original seed of innovation came for this game? What was the genesis? What was the start point for the Journey?
Walking to class. Gonna go abstract with it.
That's not a bad guess.
Believe it or not, it came as a response to Zynga's smash hit Facebook game Farmville. It was entirely a reaction to Farmville. So Genova Chan, the co-founder of the studio and director of Journey, describes his inspiration coming as the unbridled hatred and reaction to Farmville. And it was in particular to the response of Facebook's CFO at the time, who made this statement about, jacking themselves off about the crazy success of Farmville. So this guy gave an industry talk proclaiming, quote, "The future of gaming is social." And he urged all indie devs to quit their passion projects and join up with them. Mm-hmm. So Chen, no. Chen responded, "Everybody was pissed. I felt their anger too. I was like, who are you? How can you say that you define social games?" For him, social meant, an emotional connection between people, not just, quote, trading vegetables with someone on Farmville.
Yeah, not just capitalism.
The emotional connection you got on Farmville was the hatred you gained for the people on Facebook that played Farmville and would spam you with those requests so they could get their get their next batch of
their crop farm
whatever
grew faster.
I think it was later down in its lifespan, because it was by the time that obviously our generation had moved beyond Facebook. But my mentally ill grandmother loved playing Farmville.
Amazing.
So see what that says about
I'm
your
just gonna be honest there. That's better than what a lot of old people fall into, which is the slots.
Yeah.
I would like to say that most of those old people probably have access to Journey now because it was released for iOS.
Yeah, that's a baffling bit about this studio's kind of its lifespan, in that like they're like highly critical of mobile games and the general popular trends of the gaming industry. And you can see Chen in particular is largely quite bitter about a lot of these things and what it does to kind of his interpretation of how the industry is viewed by kind of outsiders. Yet all their games are available on iOS. Like, sure, most of them were ported, but their most recent game, what is it called? I have it here. Sky, Children of the Light.
Children of the Corn.
Was originally an iOS exclusive.
Oh, that was them too? Didn't know that.
It was originally an iOS exclusive. Eventually down the road, it was released for PS4, Switch.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Journey's not on Switch, which is kind of crazy.
The Sky is the only one that's on Switch. The only one of their games that's on Switch.
This is a perfect Switch game to me.
But all their game. If you like look on their Wikipedia page, it shows where. Oh, I guess I was incorrect there. I was going to say iOS is the only place where you can get all of their games, but no, you can get all of them on PS4. You can't play Flow, the first game, on iOS, and you can now play every one of them on Windows. So, okay,
No Android.
Yeah,
I
I remember getting
no.
the
Sky is the
Journey
only one
Flow
on Android.
Journey Flow Flower package on PS4 for like $5 or something like that.
What are Flow and Flower worth playing?
Never played them. They were part of a 3-game deal for $5, and I played Journey.
Sure,
had fun with it.
Sure. Yeah. So they've got a complicated relationship with mobile gaming and the franchise as a whole.
I mean, don't we all?
Yeah.
I think mobile gaming is everyone's like devil on their shoulder. You go to sit down to poop, you're holding your phone in your hand. It's like, hey, Candy Crush could be right there in a second. You could be slanging candy.
I myself did go through a slight phase last year of playing Marvel Snap a lot, but I stopped. I went on a really, really long losing streak, so I was just like, nah, I'm not having fun anymore. Let's put it
it kind of
down.
makes sense to me. I don't know about the other games because obviously I haven't played them, but Journey, to put it on iOS kind of is in line with the like social aspect of gaming, and that this company wanted to change the way we thought about it.
It is very much kind of a liberal sense of like, oh, I'm going to change it from the inside.
Yeah, and like I'm gonna reach the most amount of people this way, and they have access to the game.
Yeah, because
the most people.
At least the iOS version, doesn't have microtransactions and shit in it.
Yeah.
It still is.
Imagine
just
if you could buy a scarf.
Yeah, it still is just Journey, but on an iPad.
Yep.
They build in that soft lock at the end if you run out of scarf with an automated prompt that comes up that says, "Looks like you're out of scarf." $5.99 scarf package gets you full scarf plus full energy for next time.
Full
scarf. So the game itself began production in 2009, and like I said, Sony originally expected the game to be completed in 1 year, and obviously I've already said the game came out in 2012, so we know that didn't happen. The the original team of 7 members could never meet that deadline, and even when they expanded to 18 employees, it still took them that 3 years to complete. The overall development was, you hear lots of reports, and there's quite a well documented history of the tumultuous development experience that basically killed the studio, both morally and financially. But yeah, the development of going from these like constant shifting, extending deadlines caused a whole bunch of friction amongst the staff. You have one of the producers who came on for Journey. She has some extensive quotes saying, we were addicted to the just-in-time extensions. They were poor at extracting realistic individual estimations, and people failed to confront the true costs of just-in-time changes to the game. Managing a task list is a drag, and if you're used to working on a team with 3 to 5 people, the amount of communication you need to do to keep designers and artists motivated and on the same page with you is really frustrating. It can feel like a straitjacket. So it's like
nothing brings me back to the late 2000s more than hearing drag. What a drag, man.
They, just like we're constantly, fighting against their own culture of being, a small independent studio, yet basically, again, tied to the biggest publisher in the world at the time, or one of the top 3 at least, and what those expectations were.
And part of that, what they were saying, like unable to like realistically assess timelines. Yeah. Like that is a difficult part of project management in many fields. One of those things,
especially going from mom and pop to Sony level.
it's one of those things that like you'll see growing pains a lot when you're trying to grow like that and like adjust how your pipeline works.
And when you're that small of a studio, you know, those starting 7 people, they're all artists, you know?
Yeah.
They're not managers.
Yeah.
You know, so they have very poor management styles.
Yes.
So, you know, makes sense. And so one thing I read is like, so I feel like they were definitely crunching for a while, but they at one point they, you know, they kept hitting these walls of, okay, we got to keep um extending these deadlines. And I feel like they hit a certain point where, yeah, maybe they had been doing some crunch. It sounded like they were doing, you hear discussions of overtime, but they don't necessarily talk about forced overtime or anything like that. But they eventually went to a point where they reduced overall overtime to ward against burnout, which, you know, a good management decision for sure. If anything, it probably came too late in its cycle.
It's another thing that you can struggle with when you're small is that you can feel more responsible and like you need to take that extra overtime to keep the project moving and to keep it on track because it's, you know, it's your passion project, it's your work of heart and love. And, you know, as an artist, you always want to put everything you have into it, which can be a defeating cycle sometimes. You see that in a lot of forms of art.
And that there's another quote here that's like kind of speaks to that was a big problem for them. It was like, you know, in any creative effort, you have to, you know, the phrase is always like, you know, don't be afraid to kill your darlings. You know,
Yeah.
you can't get too attached to your, you know, your favorite idea. They say something like, you know, we had eyes that were much bigger than our stomachs. You know, we were attached to these features and ideas and were unwilling to expand the team or the process and made them feasible. So it just ended up being very costly because then they had to cut them down the road and it just cost them time, goodwill.
That could have gone elsewhere. And
Yeah.
all the.
And yeah, so like, you know, there were a lot of people who were just, you know, who still did suffer from burnout. And you had there's like one story of the art director, the guy who said who did leave the studio eventually after Journey completed to form Giant Squid. He like came to work one day. There was a fight going on between two of the members, and he just like quit on the spot and walked out. And it's like, I'm not doing this. And the producer, the other co-founder, like had to run him down on the street and like beg him to come back.
Jeez.
And eventually no, not good at all.
Not good.
I mean, I can only speak for myself there, but there's only been a couple times in my professional career where I've gotten to like a mental/emotional state where I've been at that point where it's like, it happens today, I'm just leaving. Fuck it.
Yeah. And so them, you know, reducing their overtime and still dealing with, you know, these high expectations eventually led to them, the company being driven to bankruptcy in its final months.
Nice.
Genova Chen, the director, and many other devs went without pay for some time to get it over the finish line. And the overall production was considered by most of the team to have been deeply flawed, and yeah, citing lack of communication and strong management. And the result was it basically killed the studio as almost every key person left. The studio was revived in 2019 for the iOS game Sky Children of the Light, but only a few of those original team members returned. And I've mentioned him as well. Yeah, the art director Matt Nava, you know, just was like, nope, not doing this again, and went on to
I'm gonna go make a cool game about swimming through the water.
Yeah, with Shark Friend. That one you can't deny is a shark. So how much you want to bet that was one of the fights, right? That was one of the fights. Like, is this a whale? Is this a shark? It's a fucking shark, man. I'm the art director. I say it's a fucking shark.
I'm gonna go make my own studio, and you'll all see the shark is cooler.
Yeah. So I would bet good money that was one of those fights. The game, however, was met with universal acclaim. when it came. It's like I said earlier, it's on like every best of list. It was a banger. It was a smash hit for sure. Became the fastest selling game on the PlayStation Network on PSN up until that point, because that was still before digital media, had fully taken over.
That was also, point out, a key point in time where PSN was fully free.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wait, hold on. Were these games released physically
No,
I
at
don't
all?
think so. I don't
No,
think so.
okay.
I'm pretty
I
sure
didn't
they
think
were
so.
released on the PSN only.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not to be. I mean, I love my physical media, but a game this small,
kind of
would
kind of a waste for the
Yeah.
think of also the literally like the plastic waste
Yeah.
involved for that. I don't hate that decision, particularly back in 2012. You couldn't see our cursed future at that point, so
plenty
I
of
don't
people could, but
yeah,
they
but
were
I don't know. I
they
don't
were
blame.
laughed at, and
Yeah.
they had South Park episodes made about them where with mythical man bear pigs.
Yeah. So the game was nominated for several Game of the Year awards, and I think most impressively, the score was nominated for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media at the Grammys. Although fuck the Grammys, but still, it's cool to see a game getting recognized outside of because I think at that point, was it still the Spike TV Game Awards?
Yes.
Something around there.
Yes,
It
definitely.
disappeared
It's like
sometime in that.
when did Spike die? When did Spike TV
Somewhere
die?
right around then.
I got
Maybe
this.
I think it's like 2015-ish.
Wow, that's later than we thought.
Yeah, that would be later than I thought too, but that might be right. That would be the latest I would.
They kept it alive for a little bit. But like what I find interesting is just all of their games were pretty hugely successful for especially what this company was. The Flow was also the number one downloaded game. Again, it's early in that sort of life cycle of digital downloads, but it was the number one downloaded game for the year it was released too.
How long do you think it took to download that game in 2006 on your PS3 over Wi-Fi?
Probably a couple hours.
The last thing I'll throw out there before we really kind of open it up to everybody's thoughts.
Spike TV died in 2017.
Ooh, it was even later.
Wow.
They had gone through a rebrand for a couple years.
Right. Okay, so when asked about Journey's influence on the wider gaming landscape, Chen offers an extended music metaphor. He says, quote, "If you want an orchestra to move people, then every instrument has to perform the same piece of music. Every element contributes to the storytelling. And what we learned is that the interactivity is the soloist. It's the lead of the orchestra in gaming. A lot of games in the past have told emotional stories, Final Fantasy, for example, but they relied on traditional media. I love it, but the moving part, the part where you cry, is when you watch the cutscenes. At that moment, what really touched you is cinema, not games."
That was a like, oh, mic drop moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he's not that this game doesn't have emotional cutscenes. Granted, these cutscenes last for like 30 seconds at most. But yeah, so much of the emotional moments, like one of my standout moments, and I pointed it out on Andrew's stream, is that it's during probably my favorite level, the sand surfing, the real sand surfing one where you're just moving.
Slaloming.
Yeah, and I loved going through the gates. But it's when you go through when it changes perspective to like almost like the side scrolling bit, and you're going through this tunnel and you see the sun setting, and it's you get this feeling of like you're at this kind of inflection point in the journey. Things are changing, and it's this kind of this last touch of beauty in a world, in a life that is waning, that is outgoing. and it
I
just
mean, I
like
can
really kind of
speak.
hits you in that moment. And that's you're still moving around, you're still moving your little guy, it's like you are being interactive at that point at one of its highest emotional peaks. And it's like, fuck, not a lot of games do that.
Having had one main comrade follow through the playthrough, when you get to the mountain, the interactivity of like huddling together to warm each other so you can move and sing more, and like when you get to the wind section, when I got there, I hid behind the first pillar and he tried to go ahead, and as he got blown back, like I sung to him. I was like,
When
like
you
stick
see your
together.
companion blown off the edge and you think he's dead for the first second. No.
No.
Lo siento, Wilson. Real heads know.
But just the way that you get to the mountain and watching Andrew play solo, felt so much more desolate,
Right.
Yes.
and isolated, where my journey through with my partner felt much more
Hopeful.
yeah, hopeful's a good term for it. I'm not good with the words. I don't speak English very good.
I think it just like for me, the individual is just it's such a it's not physical, but like it is colder. It is a colder experience for you
Because you're used to
without
having
that
all of your
partner.
movement, being able to jump and sing and beep boop boop boop. But no, you get up there and everything's frozen, everything's painful, everything's sad.
I enjoy that there's no, like other than the scarves as an NPC, it really is just you and then the potential companions that are inhabiting this world. And that really, I think having the companion versus doing it solo really changes how someone could experience that journey. And like, you know, not only the physical gaming way, but the emotional aspect of it. Like you are so completely alone other than these scarves if you don't have a companion. You have to weather the journey by yourself, rely on only your own skills. Whereas, a companion, you have, obviously that assistance there. Only not only in the game mechanics, but emotionally as well as like
Yeah,
a
it's
support.
very emotionally uplifting to have another person going through it with you.
Yeah.
And to be able to navigate it together.
And so I really like that you can run into the possibility of having to do the whole thing by yourself. That they don't see, oh, you get to the frozen
And a
peak
computer generated
and here,
NPC shows up.
let's throw you an
Yeah.
NPC. It was like, because for me, when I went into playing this game, for me, it was now months ago, and it was, before we ever had any intention of covering it on the podcast, and it was just like I was looking for something to fill some time between releases, or I only had like a couple hours to play something. So I'd seen that, it was on my list. I didn't like read anything about it. I didn't know about this kind of social interactive element. So I like thought it was an NPC. I'd like, because I only got my companion, or at least noticed someone else when I got to the mountaintop. So I thought it was an NPC. I thought it was just, someone to, basically it was someone to show me the way. It was like it was meant to be, more symbolic of like, you've come to this, truly, yeah, you're going through a fucking desert, but it's when you get to the snow that you've come to this, like, to utter desolation. You're seeing the gravestones of other journeyers, other journeymen and women, you know,
Journeys.
littering the landscape. So it's like when you're at your lowest, it brings you somebody to lift you back up at these, like, even mechanically most difficult spots. And I love that, like, you don't see somebody's fucking gamer tag. You don't see like Gay
Yeah.
Hitler 69 over,
Over their
hovering
head.
over
Just see the
someone's head.
flash, the cherub flash.
And it's like you don't know until the end who it was that
Yeah.
was part of your journey. And it was really kind of a touching moment in the credits to realize, just like, yeah, that there was a real person there as well.
Well, I think, other than your experience of not knowing it, just like that it's another person, like the fact that there is another person there, you have no clue about them. You just know that they're on this journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really human you know that shows the humanity of this game, that it doesn't matter. It's we're all humans on this journey together. We're here to assist each other no matter who you are. Maybe you are Gay Hitler 69
Yeah.
on the other end of that, that connection, but it doesn't matter for that moment because you are a human going through, or whatever the character is, the scarf lady, going through this
person.
journey, this
Scarf
it
Day.
is, I think it is interesting that you aren't necessarily suffering, the person, the character that you're playing, but the life around you is suffering. It shows that life
All
is
the fabric up
suffering.
there is frozen and dead and lifeless,
Mhm.
and you could
Yep,
chirp
they're
at it to try to
trapped.
bring it back to life, and it just freezes right away.
Yeah.
But even in the sand, like, it's trapped. You're releasing it. There is people, or the scarves suffering. But it's like shows that the journey of life is suffering until you get to that point of enlightenment at the end, when
And then
you
you
could be
fly
free of
over it
that
all because
suffering.
nothing matters anymore, and you're a shooting star.
All right, so here's my question for you
Shooting
all.
stars mean.
Do you think you actually make it to the top?
No.
I think you die. I think that moment when
I think
you
that's
when you collapse,
Nirvana,
you
or
die.
the sense of enlightenment upon death.
It's that you
I mean,
don't actually reach the you don't get the happy ending. You don't actually reach your goal, and it's the proof of, again, why the name of the game is Journey and not the mountaintop or something like that. It's the classic adage, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey you take to get there. And that's where we're deriving the story, and the meaning is from everything that takes you from that starting point when you stand up on the first sand dune to when you fall face down in the snow, dead, cold, and alone. And it's this, yeah, this, yeah, it's the flash of DMT hitting the
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
It's like, if because it's like at that point, it's like you've unlocked Andrew's experience was, proof of this. He's literally scarfless, no companion, nothing,
Nothing.
no
Then you go
hope.
super scarf.
And then the scarf just, is so long, and you can fly, basically, if you do it correctly. From that point,
Infinitely.
you can fly without ever touching the ground if you do it correctly. There's enough things
Yep.
sporadic through that you can keep recharging and never hit the ground again. And it's yeah, and so yeah, it's proof that, yeah, it's not about that end goal, it's about what you do along the way that matters.
So this is my interpretation, back with my Buddhist analogy. So, and I do think, I would assume there's some sort of influence there, but I don't think it's necessarily that you die at the end. I think it matters a few things. One, if you come back to the game, if you come back to the game, you've died and you've just redone the reincarnation, the cycle of reincarnation. You're back at the start, at suffering. You're releasing the suffering. You're doing the journey of life again. If you never do the game again, you've reached the point of enlightenment, which, to your point, isn't the mountaintop. It isn't like getting the things that you want, the like attachment of whatever the mountaintop represents for you in some material sense. It's the actual
I think we all know
negation
what the
of
mountaintop means to people. It's pretty distinct there. It's got two peaks with a split down the middle.
that is a good point.
You've reached release in more ways than one.
Yeah. Where's the real labia mod for that? But yeah, so it's like it's the negation that's important, the negation of suffering on this journey, not reaching those material needs or that material like goal of yours of reaching the mountaintop. It's releasing these fabrics, these scarves that are suffering. It's unconditionally loving the companion that's with you and supporting them on the journey as well.
It's proof that the speed running and challenge community that we were introduced to in Andrew's stream
doing it wrong.
are sickos who will never reach nirvana.
Yes, literally.
They're trapped in a prison of their own making.
I'm always forgetting
God damn it,
that
it's
there are
ironic.
dedicated communities on Twitch to every game, no matter how big or small.
That is pretty amazing.
So I do actually have a question for the people that completed it with the companion. Is your companion then with you through all of those end scenes, or is that part individual?
No, you die on the mountain together, but you're individual after that.
You are individual after that? Okay.
Yeah, I lost track of mine at that point. I only had them in the wind section.
Okay.
That was where
you get up. My experience was you get up to the top right where you start to just slowly slow down and the camera starts to like fog out a little bit. You lose track of your partner in that moment.
Okay.
I know for a fact I don't know about that stage, but I know from every other stage that is where you would lose a companion if one of you crosses the threshold to the next zone ahead of the other one, you get disconnected. You have to do it together in order to keep going through the whole thing. And so, yeah, I mean, but I saw Matt got the achievement of doing the whole game with the same companion through the whole thing. So yeah,
I think the achievement's for 80% or more.
Okay. So maybe you do because
I did have one. I had one companion different in the first area. But we built the bridges together, and then I went to go get a symbol, and he just fucked off and left me alone. And then in the next area, I got a new companion, and he was a real homie.
So I had some other questions here to ask, but we've kind of like touched on a good amount of them, like discussion of the multiplayer elements. Did we play in one sitting? Because we basically know that for those of us that have finished, we did. Stripping away.
Can you save it? Can you even? I don't think you can.
I don't know. Mike, you'll figure that out.
Yeah.
There's level selection, but I don't think you can.
All right, then that counts well enough.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, if there's level selection, that's good enough. But stripping away the story, the vibes, our interpretations of things, mechanically speaking, how'd you guys feel about this? It's almost entirely like passive gameplay. There's very little you're actively doing, besides just chirping at things.
And yet it feels rewarding. Like,
yeah,
while
the looting's rewarding,
even just like maneuvering, like despite it being very basic, I still enjoyed the mechanics of flying my little person around.
Well, even in your walking movement, you really don't have any limitations. Like obviously there's certain things you can't climb because you can't jump them, but there is a way to get there if you could fly there properly. There's really no soft locks, no walls, like everything is, potentially explorable. And even if you walk through sand waterfalls, you could find secrets.
What do you think it was that made, because I can't even really answer this one myself, about something so simple being so satisfying? I guess there's just the fact that, if something's executed well enough,
I just think the fact it's so different compared to because the way I got introduced to this game and Abzu and all that was they were the games I played when Overwatch was pissing me the fuck off.
This
They-
was
they were
Zen.
game-
This was
talking
Zen
about
sessions for
talking
you.
about the the polar opposites of social gaming.
Yes.
One makes you appreciate society, the other one makes you want to burn it all down.
I mean, both
Yeah.
raise your emotions and hit on certain emotions. One anger and one human connection.
And say one is exploitative, one
Yeah.
is not, one is reaffirming. Yeah, so I mean that I think is a big factor of it is one, it's so different from a lot of things I know that we here on the channel play, and it's just it's the palate cleanser. I do think that yeah, maybe it would start to wear thin if it was longer than this. We've talked about that a big reason why it hits and hits so successfully is because it knows what it is, it knows what it's trying to do, and it gets in, gets out, gets the job done. And it's it doesn't waste your time. It respects you, and gives you enough to keep the little trickle of dopamine going at every time, whether it's through discovery, whether it's through connection, whether it's through the little cutscenes.
Through a happy little beep boop.
Yeah, the chirping, the sound design. I loved how the chirping would be like kind of, it would
Change tone.
yeah, it would like reactively be working with what the music is at that moment. It's again making the score almost interactive. It was pretty cool.
Dynamic.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for.
I was just chirping the Ghostbusters theme the whole time.
Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about, Matt had mentioned it on Andrew's stream, or we were discussing the settings Matt was using on Steam Deck and having them on max, and it was draining the battery. Like the sand physics, one, but also just in art in general, mimicking cloth and the movement of cloth is something that's hard to do and be like visually appealing, and that's what this game was.
It's how you know we live in reality and not a simulation. These cloth physics are too good.
Yeah, for sure. Like
cloth and
without
water
a doubt.
cloth and water physics.
Yeah.
Sometimes water physics shut off, but people just don't understand what laminar flow means.
But so like mimicking that cloth throughout is definitely a high wear on a graphics card. It's definitely draining. But it is visually satisfying. The sand, when you're surfing through the sand, very visually satisfying. The movement of the cloth flying, the little twinkling when you when you chirrup and sing to them, or when you unlock the bridges, that like glittery kind of glinting unveiling of it, awakening, is just incredibly appealing to the eye, because it's the rest of what's going on is so simple. It's just sand or it's snow. It's a very kind of
and the fact that this
simple...
is a game from 2012 but still holds up in that way is again a testament. Again, a topic we've talked about on here many times is art direction. Art direction is the most important thing when you're putting a game together for longevity, because imagine if they, I mean, I don't even know if you could like hyper realistic, hyper realized. It probably would never have gotten played, because in 2012 they would have just been like, that's a burqa.
But also like they that I think was entirely purposeful, and that they didn't want this to be, they wanted to be just recognizable enough as to see
humanoid
its humanity, but to so like notice like you don't have fucking arms, you can't actually tell what gender the thing is, so it's immersive in that way. But also they did it on on purpose. They didn't give the guy arms because they didn't want people fighting.
Animations suck.
It wasn't that. They're like, they don't want people fighting over shit. They don't want people. They don't want people pushing each other around. They they just again wanted it to be chill.
And
which
again,
is up to the
cool.
top of the bridge section, and then
Yoink.
Scar and Simba, the guy, push him off.
Scar and Mufasa.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
But I think again, like being fully covered as well plays into that. Like you have no clue who this other person is. They're just like you because they are human. They have the same, outfit as you, same,
Yeah,
everything.
they keep
They're
the
human.
fun part all happy until the end when you see their username and you're like, oh, furry
Yeah,
Hitler.
but I mean,
Yeah.
that is cool to see, and I think it's near, right? Near
Yeah.
Autonoma that they have like
So
the end credits with everyone that's like played or whatever.
I'm
It's a
glad
bit
you
at the
brought
end.
up Near, because I was gonna say that despite these games being vastly different from a gameplay perspective, they evoke very similar feelings for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
It's
even Ben, when you were talking about that like side scroll where the sun is setting, it was making me think of different points
Yeah,
in
there's
Nier
sections
where,
in Nier, like when you're running through the Forest Kingdom on the wall, where you get
yep,
the side shot.
yeah, exactly, and that's like a also like a symbolic transitional moment in a certain sense when you're first coming in there.
Yeah, because
So
that's when you're running into the castle to see the Forest King slaughtered as a
yeah,
baby.
so I think like
Spoilers.
an incredible like we said, just like these small things or what seem to be small things are just like incredibly impactful.
This game is just like perfectly lean. They trimmed the fat just
Yeah.
so precisely.
This is one of the games where if you told me I had to give someone who's never played video games 10 games to see if they could get into something or if there's something that like scratches their itch, this is probably one of the 10 games I'd put in there.
But don't let them become a speedrunner.
You
Yeah,
will
that's
you,
fine.
you will never reach Valhalla if if you become a speedrunner.
Yeah, but what if I do it faster than everyone else?
All right,
To
so
do it more times.
we've talked about it kind of obliquely that that this is an artful game. I kind of hate this topic, but at the same time I'm going to bring it up anyways. And it's largely because it's one of the weird kind of neuroses that I kind of discovered about the game's creator or director. Genova Chen seems very committed and openly so to pursuing this argument around games as an art form. But in a way that seems very almost kind of bitter. Um, say, I want to like, I'm just like kind of, putting it out there. Is that argument fruitful for game development? Does the notion of proving oneself uh, contribute or detract from the art itself? Was Journey successful in that? And it's just like, yeah, because where it's just weird to me is like Chen remains like bitter about what he calls the great dilution of mobile gaming, which has had a detrimental effect on society's respect for the industry, according to him. Um, he says in interviews all the time, basically it's like he gets upset when throughout different stages of his career, when people have asked him what he does for a living and he makes games, they either do something like, oh, that's cute, or they do something like nowadays it's like, oh, I hear that makes a lot of money, like that they don't respect him as an artiste. And
So here's my thought, and I'm gonna go back to Buddhism again. That we need to find a middle way. But like in every art form, there is room for high art and low art. And I think video games is a good example of that. I do agree that there is this dilution of mobile games, and that happens in art of any form, and will phase out or will become the new standard, like it is kind of, but that will eventually change at some point as well, we could hope. But I think he needs to get out of his head in that way and accept the fact that there's always gonna be a Call of Duty, and there is room in the art form and the market for Call of Duty and Journey to exist. I think that, the kind of like patronizing tones that he's receiving from people are definitely true. Like that's I don't doubt that happens, and I know that happens, frankly, but that again has happened
Happens
in
in almost
every
any
art
industry.
form. What
Yeah.
was that?
Happens in almost any
But hell,
industry.
people said that about books. People said that about
Yeah, no,
novels.
exactly. They probably said it to fucking Michelangelo, like at one point, like, oh, poo poo, like, oh,
Oh,
you're,
that statue! I
that's
bet you they're
cute.
paying you a lot of money. And he's like, "Oh
Yeah,
no, I'm going to make it for the
This-
beauty."
So I do it.
Yeah.
I do it so I can get into heaven.
Yeah. So
This is a
at one,
YP. This is a YP. This is a YP for him. Like
For
he just
sure.
needs to move on and accept that like if it's what he wants to make, it's art. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's the bit that struck me. It's like, it's
Yeah.
like if you're an artist, you do it because you love it, and you're doing it for for the sake in and of itself. You are in many ways a philosopher. It is not about the recognition. It's not about the cultural cachet your successes carry. It's not about what you can brag about at the
let's
fucking
just think
dinner
about
party.
it this way for him. How many games from 2012 still,
Yeah.
generally speaking, have an active player base and people get like picking it up and buying it and playing
Caring
through it?
about.
and are watching some fucking dinguses on the internet
Yeah.
that normally have like 2 viewers, jumps up to 8 in an active chatter because we're playing a game from 12 years ago.
Folks, follow us
You
on
know?
twitch.tv/campaign comrades. Let's bump those numbers up in the new year.
We will talk about you too if you also join in chat.
People in Malaysia will know about you.
Yeah, so it's such a weird one because it's like, yes, I think this game is successful in that regard, yet it's like the fixation
It's
I mean,
upon that
that's
is-
another artist thing though.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
reminiscent of Hideo with his insist
Oh
like
my
just
God,
openly wanting to be a director and while being one of the
it's
most
like,
successful video game
I
makers of all
hate
time.
I hate video games. I want to make movies. Yeah.
I mean,
And,
they're,
like, he
they're
points out
again though,
good
like with
issues.
artists, they always have that like self-deprecating, like nagging at the back of their mind, like I could have done this better. This could have been more.
But that other
Um,
quote that I brought up of his before is like, is really where the focus should be. It's it's something like bringing it back to Nier. There are certain stories, there are certain things that could only be done in video games, like that the impact that they have, that interactivity, whether how you are moving within the story or how you are moving with another person, is only done through this medium, and you can't get that through a fucking movie.
And
Not yet.
I find it interesting that we keep bringing up Nier, and that like these are 2 games that are explicitly about the humanity of the game. Like that is the story, that's the hook, that's what the creators are hoping you get out of it, is like a new sense of humanity, a connection to humanity. And I think that's what one of the things that makes both of those games really good is that it is a genuine connection and a genuine tug on that human heartstring that you can't get in a movie. You're not gonna get from playing Call of Duty. So in that sense, it is art, and it is good high art in that it evokes that human emotion from you, and that's truly what art is meant to do, and like why we have it, and kind of like revere it. And I think they do a good job of it. So chill out, both both of you there.
Yeah.
And like you've made successful games, and I've made templates for successful games in the future that have storylines that are meaningful and aren't just shoot 'em ups.
See, Yoko Taro is the GOAT. He doesn't give a shit about that. Like he's just
He'd
doing
much rather argue with you on no, that's Kamiya. Never mind.
So he just does it. He just does it. You know, he just vibes and
Yeah.
makes his art and moves on. He's not
He did a
about.
good
I always
job.
appreciate when people will be like, so we're going to get a Nier Automata sequel? And he's like, you already have. You've got the mobile game. You've got the orchestra. Like,
Yeah, you've got the musical that you can go watch in Japan. Yeah,
I didn't know about
Campaign
that. That's
Comrades
fantastic.
Japan trip one.
yeah. There's a whole bunch of other cross media stuff he's done with that.
If we
Uh,
go to Japan, we have to go for an extended period of time because I only want to do that
Oh, yeah.
flight once, and
Oh, yeah.
then we just hit everything we need to.
Yeah, no, it's like you're there for like a month.
Yeah, at least maybe 6 weeks, and we just fucking bing bang boom everything.
Bing bong all around the.
So a retirement trip.
No, just stock up your
So
your
let's just
time.
move to Japan for a year.
Yeah.
Work
That's
remotely.
a
from Japan
sabbatical.
if we have to. I could be a lawyer.
We don't
Let's
live
take
in
a-
Europe,
let's take a
man.
5-year trip to Japan. Let's start
Right.
our lives over.
expat
Yeah, I'm
site
working on my
storyline.
Italian citizenship, so we could all go there. I'll buy a house.
All right, gang. Any final thoughts? Any more insights into the journey of life, as we so call it, before we wrap it for today?
I love these games, and you should too. And if you don't, I hate you.
Yeah. There's
Again,
there's something broken inside of you.
I just am thoroughly impressed by what they're able to do with so much minimalism and still have the impact they can have in such a short time.
Humanity is simple.
It's a great game.
You know, human connection is simple. It's hard to do, but it is like a simple concept, And when it's done with such simplicity, it is a beautiful piece of art.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for today. Can look forward to some more game episodes in the near future. We've got the first 3 months of the year planned out for now. We will be doing.
I have my game in mind now. I know it's in the future, but I decided during this pod.
We will be covering the first part of the Final Fantasy VII remake next month, February, in anticipation of the release of Part 2, Rebirth, at the end of the month. And then Matt will be leading us through his choice episode on Half-Life in March. But we have no other plans at the moment yet.
Other than Mike apparently has made his plan.
Yeah, I'm debating. Mine will be at the end of the year, so I've got plenty of time to decide, and we'll have to work out our in between.
Yakuza Kiwame 1.
No, probably not. I'm leaning towards a couple other things, but we'll see if anything else comes out this year that surprises me, or that I play from my backlog that surprises me. But yeah, I've already plugged the Twitch, but I'll do it again. Follow us on twitch.tv/campaign comrades, online Campcom Pod, pretty much everywhere else. I think that'll do it for us. We will be back next week, though, with our first adaptation episode of the year. We are watching.
Have we picked the adaptation?
Yeah, we're doing Prince of Persia. We're doing Prince of Persia because there's a Prince of Persia game coming out this month.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're doing Jake Gyllenhaal. We're just going to be sifting through sand with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's going to be a very sandy month.
Very believable Persian.
Here's a preview. I've seen that movie like 15 times because it was always on fucking TV.
Uh-huh.
It is one I've actually not seen any of.
Wow.
Same.
That's impressive. Because
I'm
again,
because you've seen a lot of bad movies.
It was very much like constantly in the FX movie rotation.
Yeah,
All right, let's save it for the episode, though.
Yeah. So I'm actually excited to rewatch it.
I'll remember my inner 2008 racist kid coming out.
Oh boy. Well, that's where we'll end it, folks. We will see you next time. Bye bye.